Anabolic Academy on Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding. I got a special guest, friend Rob Van Zant, IFBB Pro, classic physique competitor. Just finished. You did the New York Pro, and what else did you do before that? You did one before
Pittsburgh
that.
Pro right before that.
Right, you did Pittsburgh and you did New York. How'd you do in Pittsburgh? I was at the New York show. How did you do in Pittsburgh?
I actually managed to squeak into eighth place out of I want to say like 19 guys.
Wow,
It
that's
was
pretty damn good.
yeah. I mean, again, for doing this thing myself and like trying to figure it out on my own.
Yeah,
Did
like before
work.
we started the show, we were talking. Vinny Galante used to train you,
Mhm.
and now you're doing it on your own. And for you to come in, I've seen the pictures, and I saw you at the New York Pro. You look better than you did last year, so you're doing something right. And to come in eighth out of 19 guys on a pro level, that's saying something, man. Especially when you're doing it on your own, that's really saying something. You know,
Yeah, no, thank you.
everybody likes to focus on the big names. I mean, I get it. You know, the most popular, the best of the best. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not saying they don't work hard. Those guys work hard, but they're gifted. They're special. The Ian Valliers and the Tonio Burtons, and those guys are special. They have genetic gifts and shape and so on and so forth. You get down to the next couple of tiers, and if you don't split hairs, it could just and to prove my point, the best coaches are never the best pros. So if you ever see who the good coaches are now, like Milos was a good pro, but he wasn't a great pro, right? He wasn't Ronnie or Kevin or Sean Ray, or he was in that class, but he could never break into that top tier, top 5, top 6 category, right? Thackeray was a good pro, wasn't an excellent pro, but a great trainer.
Right.
You got Farrow was a decent pro, but a great trainer. Aceto never even turned pro. Dave Palumbo never even turned pro. Great trainers, and you could go down the list. I mean, Ramrod, same thing. So a lot of times it's the guys that don't have the perfect genetics that have to study and work hard and grind and tweak things to perfection in order to realize what they're doing wrong and what can make them better, right? I mean, look, anybody could, during Phil Heath's prime, the best analogy I ever heard was King Kamali, and he goes, "A blind albino snake could train Phil Heath, and he would be Mr. Olympia."
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Anyway, how you doing otherwise, man?
I'm moving, man. Productive. It's been a really good year. I mean, from just the prep, and now that it's over, just focusing on work and things outside of bodybuilding. It's all come. I don't know. It's kind of a funny timing, but things are just working out. Like, not to sound like overly positive or like generic or any kind of BS like that. It's just like, I don't know. It's like, it's been a good year. So
Good, man. Good. No, it's. So, what are you concentrating on now that you're not competing?
eating.
I don't blame you.
I've gained 20 pounds, and I'm holding 20 pounds up from New York.
Good.
So I'll be 247 this morning. I weighed in at 219.
Wow. Okay.
2 weeks ago. It's a hell of an experience, I'll tell you that.
You know what I actually wanted to ask you, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah.
When you were at the New York Pro or the Pittsburgh Pro, what guy, I don't care what division, open, classic, physique, 212, what guy did you look at and you were really impressed by? Like, what guy backstage you looked at and you went, holy shit, that guy looks fucking good.
See, I want to say this, so I want to be considerate. So, do you know his name's Bionic Body on Instagram? He's the guy who doesn't have the calves, like from the knee down. He's prosthetics.
Oh yes, the black guy.
I competed with him at Pittsburgh. I competed with him at New York Pro, and he just placed fourth, I believe, at Toronto.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
So I've known about him for a little while, but to actually see him in person,
yeah,
like have the appreciation that, like, I mean, it kind of sounds shitty to say, right? But like he's got a disability, like he's at a disadvantage with everybody else.
Yeah, of course.
But his hamstrings are sharp, his quads are sharp, they're developed.
Yeah.
The dude's happy as can be. He's like fist bumping everybody, saying hi, like having the second time of his life.
That's
So
amazing, right?
yeah, there are better bodies up there. Don't get me wrong. There are more impressive physiques from the knee up.
Right.
But then you consider like what he's gone through and like what he's turned this into, and it's like, how the hell, man? Like
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about and who you're talking about rather. And I see his leg. His legs are really separated. I mean,
Yeah.
everything is separated, and it's like, how does he train legs so well with the prosthetic legs like that? You know, I mean, I know it's a lot different now, and science and technology has gotten a lot better, but it's got to be difficult for him, you know, to squat and leg press and leg extensions and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, I mean, we think because we have legs, right? Like we couldn't imagine otherwise. But for him, I imagine at this point, like the guy's pro. Like
Yeah,
he's
right.
figured it out. I'm sure he's got it nailed down to
Yeah,
like
absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
freaking second
Yeah,
nature at this point. So
yeah,
yeah, starting out must have been the greatest challenge. But I mean, again, top fourth place Toronto, like
yeah.
the guy's doing well.
Yeah,
He's got a good
my father would have been 88 years old, and he was in the service right before Vietnam started. He was lucky; he never got drafted into Vietnam because he was drafted before the war started,
right.
and he was stationed in the Philippines where it was like 110, 120 every day, and I remember him telling me that the human body will get used to anything.
Mm.
Like it'll adapt. Because when he first got there, it was like torture. But after some time, you kind of knew how to cool off and when to go out, when to do your duties, and so on and so forth, and you were able to adapt. So, you know, we live in an entitled society, but when you see a guy like the gentleman you're talking about, you realize that human beings can overcome and adapt the most trivial and the most terrible outcomes.
Mm.
And then when you look at somebody and you just go, they just make up excuses and so on and so forth, and they don't have any kind of physical problem or mental problem or anything like that. And
Yeah.
you just go, you're just a waste. I can't even,
Yeah,
the oh,
he humbles you. Seeing that, it humbles you. It's
oh,
we've all
100%.
thinking about the silliest crap, but I mean, this guy is going above and beyond. And again, like he's literally at a disadvantage, missing a quarter of his body. Like, from sake.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man. It really is. All right, let's jump into the questions. I only have 3 from Instagram, and then you have a couple. One is from I don't want to this Instagram name. I hope I am not butchering it, but it's Fran is Damon. Fran is Damon. Fran is Damon. Sorry about that. Might be my accent, my New York accent, but really appreciate the comment and the question. It's directly for me. It says, new fan here. How did you get into bodybuilding, and what's your contest placing history? Well, how did I get I got into bodybuilding because my generation was into bodybuilding.
Mm.
If anybody ever saw that movie, Bigger, Faster, Stronger, that's the same generation I grew up in. When he was talking about Arnold and Hulk Hogan and Stallone, that was my generation. So all my action figures, just like he talked about, were muscle. And you watched Stallone and Rocky, and you watched Schwarzenegger and Commando, and Hulk Hogan was the 24-inch pythons, and everybody wanted to look like that. And so that's how I got into it. My brother bought me a little weight set. My contest history, really, I never got out of the NPC level because, quite frankly, I'm a realist, and I knew I just wasn't good enough. And that's the truth. And I knew I was never going to put bodybuilding first. Right. So my first show was 1999, was Mr. Staten Island. I won the middleweight class in the open. I didn't compete again until 13 years later. I had gotten married, and we had moved to New Jersey, and I walked into a guy's gym in Hawthorne. It's not there anymore. The guy sold the gym. I think it's some kind of, I don't even know what the gym is now, but it's not a gym anymore. And Guy Del Corso, who still trains people out of his house and works for the NPCs Backstage. You know him. He's the older dude with the gray goatee.
Yeah.
He runs everything.
He was the first coach I worked with, actually.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, he was the first coach, but he was when I walked into his gym, because I was looking for a hardcore gym, and somebody had recommended, so I went in, and it was hardcore. And I don't know, after a couple of days, he's like, I train guys to compete. If you want to compete, I think you do good. And I went home and talked to my wife, and I did 3 shows, 2 in 2012 and 1 in 2014. In 2014, that's when I was like, all right, I'm not doing it anymore. 2012 was the Tri-State, which they don't have in Jersey anymore. I think it's in Pennsylvania now. And then it was Muscle Beach, which is James Sedon's show. I came in second in the open and light heavies, and I won the Masters overall in both of them. And then I did the Brooklyn Grand Prix, and I did not do well in the open. I came in 5th. Really bothered me. I really thought I should have placed higher. And I won the Masters overall. And then I was considering doing a national level show. And then there was that. I went to actually go speak to Oscar Arden if he would train me. I spoke to another trainer. And then I went to Team Universe, and I saw John Meadows win and become pro. And I looked at him and I said, there's no way. I'm never going to look like that. There's just no fucking way I'm ever going to look like that. And I was just realistic with myself. I was like, I just went home, told my wife, I'm like, yeah, we're done. So, I mean, but but I wasn't ready to, I would never, to be a pro bodybuilder, and there was no classic physique back then, right? I think it started like 15 or 16. So it was a year or two after I stopped. I wasn't ready to put everything else on hold for possibly a bodybuilding career, especially in my 30s, right? And I just wasn't ready to do that. I wasn't going to do that. And I was like, I just got married. We just got the house. We were talking about kids. I was like, all right, we're done. We're not doing that anymore. But this fulfills my bodybuilding hole, if you will, right?
Yeah, I mean, it keeps you involved in the industry. It keeps
right. Which I like. I happen to like a lot. Enjoy a lot more. I talk to guys like you on here, and we talk about bodybuilding. I enjoy it a lot more. All right, so
if you don't mind, let me because one of the questions goes into that. It goes into your contest.
Good.
Because I'm big into the whole, like you get people who walk in there and they're like quiet, reserved to themselves, like ready to go to war or whatever, like that whole BS ego thing, right? Like for me, every time I do a show, like I just want to have fun. Like I just want to enjoy the experience. I want to create a memory. Like we'll walk out of there regardless of how it plays and just be like I have all of this to value from that show. Like, I can think of like the 2020 Nationals I did. First time I ever did Nationals, walked in, 8-week prep, placed 5th. From start to finish, that was probably my favorite experience of any show I've ever done. Right. So you've done a handful of shows. Like, could you think back and think like, what was that like big excitement for you?
Well, being on stage, definitely, and having family in the audience,
exactly what it feels like. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go a little deeper, right? Because people like honesty. Yeah. I've always, I guess it's a bit of insecurity, but I've always yearned approval until I got to a certain age. Until I got into my 40s was when I was like, when I just went, oh, fuck it. I don't need anybody's approval, right? This is when I started the podcast, and when I started, kind of, not when I started making decisions, making small and larger life decisions on my own, not consulting with anybody. Put it that way. Right. But in my 20s and in my 30s, I've always yearned for approval. So it was fulfilled a little bit when I was on stage and I saw my brothers in the audience like cheering me on. My brothers are so much older than me.
Okay.
That I always yearned for their approval. So when I would see them my oldest brother's 14 years older than me. So when I would see them in the audience, cheer me on and so on and so forth, that was very fulfilling. And then, obviously winning is great, don't get me wrong. But after some time, that was probably the most fulfilling when I'm on stage and I see family and friends in the audience and they're cheering me on. But the truth of the matter was I didn't enjoy the prep. And I wasn't ready to put everything else on hold to keep trying for a pro card. I just wasn't going to do it. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't for me. I get more fulfillment out of this now. But yeah, that was probably always the best, you know. Yeah, it's just I think every bodybuilder has a little bit of insecurity.
Oh, of course.
I think I mean, everybody has insecurities, right? Everybody has insecurities. Everybody handles it a little bit differently. But I think every bodybuilder has a little bit of insecurity. I mean, I started working out because I would get bullied, you know, growing up in Brooklyn, and I had moved to Staten Island and so on and so forth. And I started working out, and then I started I was always interested in the Rambo, Rocky, blah, blah, blah. But that that crowd approval is a high. It's a high. It really is. And but as I got older, you just kind of become an adult, and you kind of realize that that's not. I had bigger responsibilities than that. Like that's. So now my high is like when I get a nice Instagram message like this, and people go, "New fan here. How did you get into body?" That to me is all worth doing what we're doing right now.
Good. Yeah,
Anyway, good.
yeah, I mean, hell, I've been watching your stuff for a little over a year now. It's like I've never heard that story before, so that's good. It just gives more insight.
Thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate it. I try to be as honest as possible.
Yeah,
If there's something that I don't want people to know, I just don't talk about it.
yeah, that's understandable.
But for the most part, there's almost nothing I won't talk about. If somebody asks me a question, and sometimes like I'll tell a story that really happened, and it's just funny, and people think I'm strange, or it's just yes, it really happened. There's very few stories I told that would. And I think there was only one story that I told that was a joke, but all those stupid stories I tell, they all really happen. And I think these things happen to a lot of people that just don't think it's funny. And I think it's hilarious. And I'm like, if I told that on the podcast, that would, that'd be fucking hilarious, Anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Hey, you gotta put yourself out there,
All right. You want me to ask? This is actually, I'll give you this question.
Yeah.
Best orals for size.
Well, I can very much answer that question.
All right.
I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I don't have much experience with that, to be frank. So I don't want to like mislead or like imply or just based on speculation. From my own experience, what I'm currently going through now, like I mentioned, I'm up 20 pounds, and I'm not gonna say it's like effortless, right? But I'm still doing 10 minutes on the stairs, walking every other step, 5 days a week. I'm still working in a warehouse 40 plus hours a week,
Yeah.
constantly running, pushing, stacking boxes. Like it's physical labor, start to finish.
Right.
And I'm still gaining pounds by the day almost. The other day I was like 244, now I'm 247. Next week I'll be
Right.
like 50, whatever. Uh, I mean, it's got a reputation. It's Anadrol.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 25 milligrams every day, first thing in the morning. And I mean, of course, you gotta earn that size, right? Like you gotta eat, you gotta work towards it. By itself, it's
Sure.
not gonna do anything to make you pissed off all the time.
Right.
You actually train right. I gotta say that one. I mean, people love to talk about D-ball because everyone and their mother knows what it is, and that's cool, right? Like it just has a reputation about it, but I've never tried it. From my
Yeah.
understanding, it's really just wet weight. Like you're just putting water on real quick.
Yeah.
I took pictures the other day, 244. I still have striations in my quads. I still have separations in my quads. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's. I'm not saying I gained 20 pounds of muscle and I would never, you know, try to pass that off. But whatever it is, it's working. It's gonna stay a little while,
Right.
and it's relatively lean quality.
Yeah.
So
Right.
obviously, I'm stacking other things with it.
Yeah.
But shit, I'm not gonna argue at 20 pounds in 2 weeks, man. Like it's pretty solid.
You're not kidding. Yeah. The answer is always either Anadrol or D-bol. And I think it depends on most people are going to pick Anadrol. The problem I have with Anadrol, and it's definitely dose related. If I go past a certain dose, like maybe 50 milligrams a day, it
Okay.
kills my appetite. Just
Yeah.
kills it. Where D-bol, I really don't have that much effect, and I tend to get good reaction from D-bol. So I'll use both, not at the same time. Well, I don't use orals anymore, but when I was looking to put a lot of weight on, I would have used both, and I would like 6 weeks on and then take it 2 weeks off and do another, like a D-ball for 6 weeks, or
Okay.
something like that. But yeah, it's definitely Anadrol is probably the first choice of most people, and then D-ball. And then, I mean, a lot of people like Anavar, but for size and strength, especially for strength, Anadrol is great for strength.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really is. It really is great for strength. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's a fun one, man. Especially if you use it right. I mean, you guys were talking about it. Danny was mentioning, and I've looked it up previously. The actual recommended dosage for like medicinal use is like I think a milligram per like some ridiculously small number, like within 5 pounds of body weight. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
exceptional, like what they recommend.
Right, right, right.
And I've never gone more than 50 milligrams because
Yeah, yeah,
whatever like the hearsay dose is, I normally either cut it in half or cut it down to a quarter.
right,
I've seen great results. I've dieted down. I've prepped with 12.5 milligrams, and I've maintained like a full saturated on it.
right, right, right.
I was on 25 milligrams a week leading up to the New York Pro just because I needed to improve some kind of way from Pittsburgh if I wanted to stand a chance, even having somebody look my direction.
Right, 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 right.
And I was better. I was bigger. I was leaner. Now, granted, I played around with the diet and other things, but certainly
Right.
played a part in that. So yeah, it's you got to have a calm mind about this stuff, and people get way too excited about it. They get way too excited hearing this conversation, like, "Wow, like Rob just gained 20 pounds." Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
sure,
I'm gonna do 1,000
you
milligrams of
don't know what
Anadrol.
I
No.
did on top of that. Like,
Right, 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 right. No, sometimes I hear young guys, they ask me, in the gym, they ask me about, you know,
mm,
steroid use and so on and so forth. And then I tell them, I was like, you're asking the wrong questions. I was like, you gotta ask about your weight training and your what are you eating and your workout schedule and your sleep schedule. All that other stuff comes later on. The best analogy of steroids that I ever had. Like the first show I ever did in 1999, this girl trained me, Cassie Hornbuckle. She was an amateur bodybuilder. Back then, there was only bodybuilding. There was no physique, no fitness, figure. There was nothing like that. Oh, there was fitness actually, but there was fitness and bodybuilding. And she was just jacked. And she was a sweetheart of a person. And she said to me, I mean, she used a woman's analogy, but I understood. She said, steroids have to be like makeup, just a little bit to
yeah,
bring out the best parts of you. And I'm like,
mm,
that's yeah. And I was like, that's perfect. All right. Here's another question. Shave or wax for hair removal? What do you do?
shave.
Yeah, yeah, I shave, except I'm gonna be a little disgusting. So
Right?
I shave, my wife shaves my back, but I don't like having hair in my crack. So a friend of mine who did not do bodybuilding actually told me how to deal with that because you can't see it, right? I was like, no. So if you shave it, you can miss spots. He goes, buy Nair for men. So it's not as powerful. It's like a lighter version. And then he goes, you put it in your crack and you take a cloth, preferably white, so that you could see what you're wiping off. And you go, you do your thing, you get into the shower, and then once you feel it start tingling, just take the cloth and it all comes off. But make sure it's white so you can see. Because if you have like a dark blue cloth, you can barely see the hair, right?
Imagine.
And it all comes off. And then he goes, and if you get a little bit of a burn afterwards, Neosporin knocks it right out. So I literally try to be hairless from like the neck down.
Yeah, no, learn something new. Right? I've tried messing around with Nair like years and years and years ago. I
Yeah,
just either wasn't patient with it, didn't know what I was doing. I don't know. I buzz everything like a week before a show.
yeah.
As I
Most
get
people
closer, I
shave.
just take a razor and I just
Yeah,
have it.
actually, I'm due. I haven't nailed my butthole in a while. I gotta see if I still have it. If it's expired. Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, if you can
Anyway.
think of a reason for it, go.
All right. So those are my three questions. I didn't have any questions. What do you got? What kind of questions you got?
All right. Changing the topic. Oh, you know what? Actually, you brought up the conversation of loyalty.
Yeah.
Maybe it was right before we actually started recording, but
Yeah.
so and I see this a lot, probably with amateurs, just because like I follow more amateurs just within the circuit, people I've seen before, and it's a concept of like, and I don't mean this to like in the sense like you're gonna stab somebody in the back, right? But more so just like, are people romanticizing this idea of like you have to be loyal to a coach because you've worked with them without knowing? It's like, if like, okay, so I worked with Guy Del Corso.
Hmm.
I did much better with him than I did by myself.
Right.
And then I transitioned on to Vinny. I turned pro.
Right.
So
Right.
by going from going to nobody to one person to another person,
Yeah.
I kept taking steps towards progressing and getting better and getting better.
Hmm.
And now, granted, I'm doing this by myself, but now it's with the knowledge of two people I've worked with
Right.
personally, plus all
Right.
the information and research I've done on myself, for myself rather, trial and error. To be married to the idea that you have to stay with a particular person,
Right.
sure, like you might get really good results, right? But who's to say that somebody else can't see that, take it, and mold it into something better?
Yeah. Look, it's the same thing if you study fighting, martial arts, MMA, boxing, and you go to a school and you have drained that person's knowledge. You know that the teacher of that school, you've drained all of his knowledge, and now you want to gain more knowledge.
Mhm.
It's not selfish to want to move on. My thing is, and this obviously goes with coaching, be respectful and tell them. I don't, this whole ghosting thing and just avoiding conversation, to me, that's the worst part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If somebody's been coaching you for at one show, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and they saw you through a show and they're with you backstage and so on and so forth, and you did good, and you want to see if you could do better, and you talk to a bunch of other coaches, at least give that person the respect to give them a call or talk to them face to face. Don't text. Don't fucking text. It's ridiculous. Give them a phone call, talk to them face to face, and say, hey, look, I really appreciate everything you did, but I just want to see what else is out there. No hard feelings. I respect you immensely, and I hope you can understand. If that person doesn't understand that, then that's on them.
Okay, because that would
And
have
if
been the point to this question, of
yeah,
course, how they can respond to that.
yeah, if they don't have if they don't understand, that's on them, and they've obviously haven't been in the industry long enough, because people change coaches like people change underwear. Man, how many coaches has Big Rammy had since he turned pro? I can't even keep count. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, Chad, Farah, Aceto, the guy from Iraq, Oxygen. I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about. Okay.
Uh, Dennis. I mean, it's just. I mean, you go down the list. It's just, it is what it is. Now, that's my whole thing. Is just give the person enough respect, and if you can't pick up the phone and talk to somebody, and just say, whatever. What does it say about you? Like, think about that. You don't have the backbone or what it takes to tell somebody that has helped you for the last 12 weeks or 16 weeks, that you are looking elsewhere. You're just going to ghost them or just don't answer their calls. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then make excuses afterwards. What? That says a lot about you. And the one thing you don't want to do. This is a niche market, and the industry is small, as I learned in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
You don't want a reputation like that. You know what I mean? You don't want people. You don't want people saying things like that. I had uh, Fred Smalls on last week. We talked about this, and you can go look the anabolic, not the Anabolic Academy, where we do muscle talk,
Mhm.
and it was me, Jason Owens, and Fred Smalls, and he was talking about what a bad experience he had with George Farah. And he said that he wishes he would have stayed with Chris Aceto, and then Aceto's training him for the Masters Olympia now. I mean,
Yeah.
why would you want your reputation to be that? You don't want that, Rebbe, because all right, let's say he Fred Smalls says whatever, and then Rob Van Zandt is looking for another trainer. It's like, yeah, maybe I'll skip fucking Farah. No thanks. You know,
Yeah,
I don't want.
definitely.
You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid to say it. Another guy too, Phil Vez. When I had done the last show, and a friend of mine was getting coached by Phil Viz. And I saw him in the gym. I went over to talk to him, and he didn't know me. I just introduced myself. I said, "Hey, Phil, you're training a friend of mine." He looked at the floor. I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall, right? I never had a conversation with him. This is the one and last guy. He looked at the floor. and he's just nodding his head. He wouldn't look at me in the eye. He wouldn't shake my hand. And he's just like, oh yeah. He's gonna do good. I was like, all right. So I just walked away.
Right.
Now, do you think I'm going to consider him if I had decided to compete again? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's a business. You have to, people have started making fun of me because I said beef stew doesn't smile, and I was like, it's not about the fact that he doesn't. I was thinking about it today. It's not the fact that he doesn't smile, but it's how you come across to the audience.
The presentation. That's what you just said.
Right. It's how you come across to the audience. If you are building a fan base, you want them to see you happy doing what you do and seeing you happy when you meet them. And sometimes I know it's hard to say, if you do a show and you get your ass handed to you and you got to go outside afterwards and talk to these people that want to talk to you. And I know it's difficult, but that's being a pro, but that's being a professional. Do you know what I mean? That's being a professional. That's what you got to do.
It is funny you bring that story up, actually. I don't know if you saw it, but we actually just did a post earlier today about that.
I did see that. That's what reminded me of.
Oh, I gotta think about it.
Yeah, he's right. Does it matter on stage? No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter on stage. But
your point, like for the presentation,
it's your presentation. And do you think, what if there was a reason why? What is his name? The boogeyman. What's his name?
Oh, Blessing.
There was a reason why Blessing had a choice of half a dozen major supplement companies that want to, because his Instagram following and his personality is so outgoing. He's going to be it's going to be an easy sell for this endorsement. The money is going to be returned to them, to the supplement companies 10 times over, right?
Yeah, he does a very good job at that.
Yeah, and you have somebody who doesn't have that, or it looks miserable. It doesn't look like he's into it. Do you think those endorsement companies are going to really throw themselves at you?
No, that's a great point, because Blessing, as far as placing is concerned, cool, he won the New York Pro last year, but since then,
he took a shit at the Olympia, but he still got a huge contract because they don't care about that. They care about your Instagram following. They care about your fans. They care about your personality. And that's just the way it goes. And when I say that about Stu, I don't mean harm by it. I think that guy is going to be a top tier bodybuilder in the next, by the time he's 30, he's 26. I think that guy is going to be in a top 10 Olympia, and by the time he's 30, maybe less. Clearly, he has the shape, he has the size, he has the muscle, so on and so forth. He doesn't have any weak body parts. He's definitely a talent, and he's the future bodybuilder. So I don't think when I say things like that, I don't mean to. It's not an insult. It's just, I know I'm not a pro bodybuilder, but I'm 47 years old. So I kind of been around the block.
Yeah, you've seen it. And it is good advice, right? Because it's going to attract your more general bodybuilding fan who's just really looking at it for appearances, right? And it's quick to judge us, and it's quick to judge anyone. So yeah, if he's going to have this resting bitch face on stage and it doesn't look like he's appreciating, having fun, anything of the sort, similar to how you may view it, it's easy to kind of sour on the guy quick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, do you think Nick Walker would have been so popular if he wasn't on Fuad's channel? Because that channel really let him show what his personality is like. And he is an easy guy to like.
Very.
He is an easy guy to like. And that, when he was on that channel, that blew him up overnight. Same thing with Luke Sandow, God rest his soul, same thing. Nobody knew what he was like before he was on that podcast. And he was another guy that was funny and friendly. And so that just happens to be the truth, man. It's unfortunate, but it is the truth. It's not the 1950s anymore where who was that Yankee that was a nasty bastard, but everybody wanted to be him. He was was it Mickey Mantle? Yeah, I think it was Mickey Mantle that I'm not 100% sure, but they made a movie about it. And he was he was a drunk, he was relatively mean to kids, he didn't like to sign autographs. I forgot the name. He was in the early 60s maybe, but it's not like that anymore. And I mean, you're under a spotlight with social media, Instagram. Everything is immediate. I mean, the pictures, for the Toronto Pro were up in it's,
they're quick with that. I'm pretty happy. It's
absolutely. All right, you got any other questions?
Yeah, actually, so it ties into just the last few shows because I was talking about this. So my mom, her boyfriend's like very new to this stuff. Like he saw me compete at Toronto last year, saw me compete in the New York Pro. Like he's trying to get educated real quick just because he wants to like spark conversation, right? And I appreciate that.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun because it's a different person, different pace. So he was interested in like the tier system of it all. And I was trying to explain why the New York Pro is so special or Toronto Pro is so special, but like the Kansas City showdown, whatever the hell it is, like just doesn't mean
Right.
anything, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And when we talk about the New York Pro, we think back like and more so yourself than I, but like the Night of Champions and the
Yeah.
names. It would be like your regulars at the Olympia would go there, show face, get ready, and
Right.
like the momentum. But as far as what I've experienced over the last couple of years, it's more so just debuts for people.
Yeah.
Like it's beef stew. It's not that it was necessarily Blessing's debut, but like it's all these new and upcoming faces. And it's more so a question of does it still hold its prestige because we're not seeing Hunter Labrada up there, we're not seeing Derek Lunsford up there, we're not seeing Samson Dowd up there for actual competition. We're seeing these new up and comers. Is
That's a
there any
really. That's a.
sense, just
That's
playing
a.
around with ideas here, but is
Yeah.
there any sense to having an annual ranking of shows based on prior turnouts? Like if the New York Pro was a jump, like it could have been considered last year. Does it now drop to a tier 2 or a tier 3? But because the Cali Pro last year was incredible, now that is considered for this year tier 1, tier 2, what have you. Now, the only thing to consider with that is we're no longer doing the point system. So, admittedly, these tiers don't even matter as far
Right.
as,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they do, right, for the sake of the pride of it. But if there's no points, what's the matter? That's what the tier system is for. The New York Pro is a lot of
Right.
points.
Right.
Texas State Pro is effectively nothing.
Yeah.
Um, so, I guess the question kind of boils down to like, should we just continue to live in what was, or should we just consider what is? And then each year reconsider and reevaluate and reprioritize.
That's a really good question because even I am reluctant to say the New York Pro is the third best show in the world because it doesn't draw the caliber of competitor that it used to. And that's a really good question. But you're right. The tier system is basically psychological now that it's just you got to win in order to get to the Olympia, right? But I think it's a different time where you don't have to compete if you're in the top 10 Olympian because your social media presence is so strong by the time you get to that point. So you're making money plenty of other ways. And you're right, it has become like I didn't know who Joe Seaman was before the show. I didn't know who Robin Strand was before the New York Pro. Right. You go down the list. I didn't know who Eric Wood was before the New York Pro.
Right.
And these guys are the future, right? These guys are young guys that and it's a prestigious way to make a debut. To answer your question, man, I really don't have an answer. I don't know. I don't know what you would do. I mean, I don't think there's anything. What kind of incentive? The only incentive that you would do to get to get like a tier 1 guy, top 10 guy in the contest is offer more money. But I don't think the New York Pro or the Cali Pro is ready to do that because it's not like when you look at the Olympia or you look at or any Arnold Classic, whether it's here or Europe or South America or wherever. That's not a show. That's a weekend. That's an experience. The money that it generates is insane.
Yeah.
So for Arnold to offer another $100,000 to draw people in was no big deal. Whereas the New York Pro, I don't think it generates that kind of money. So they're trying to, like make a profit through the ticket sales, the live streaming, so on and so forth, maybe endorsements, and I don't think it generates that kind of money. So I don't think they have, an extra $10,000 the number one spot isn't going to bring Samson Dowder to the New York Pro, right? Especially after taxes. It's just not. But it's a really good question, man. But no, I don't think it has the prestige. But yeah, they used to be a tier system, and now what I basically look at, I don't even look at it as a tier system anymore. I look at the Olympia, the Arnold Classic, and then everything else.
Because those are the shows somebody's going to show up at.
Yeah, it's. But the good thing is, if you're a hardcore fan like us, I like to see the new blood.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I was excited to see what Beef Stew was going to look like.
Yeah.
And Antonio Burton, and who else? I'll be honest with you though, Sergio, he shocks people. He competes in shows like that, but I think he changed his attitude a little bit when I last interviewed him because he wants to get back on the Olympia stage, so he's trying to get his qualification. Yeah. But for the most part, yeah, it has become like for Ian, he wants to qualify for the Olympia, so it makes sense to do the Toronto. It's right in his backyard. So do it Toronto. Well, he knows he's going to win, for the most part. And if he doesn't do Toronto, he could do Vancouver or whatever. You know what I mean? Like something close by, and then he goes to the Olympia. The top 5 guys, they're going to the Olympia no matter what, and everybody else is going to have to win a show already. So, yeah, man, I just think, I don't think it's even worth trying to figure out because there's the rules change all the fucking time too. Do you know what I mean? It's like what they're doing what now?
I think that's just the nature of it. They're weighing in men's physique now. They're going to be doing a weight cap is what's being speculated. They were weighing in everybody at the New York Pro.
But men's physique, really?
Men's physique.
I'll tell you.
Similar model to like classic, where if you're at 6 foot tall, you can only be 230 or something like that. I don't know. It sounds like that's what they're doing. Like everybody's because I was there when they announced it. Like we're weighing in men's physique.
Yeah.
And then I heard, admittedly, I don't know who it is, but from one of the podcasts that they were considering that as an option. Like just because men's is becoming such a, I mean, they're impressive guys at this point, right? Considering where it started. Like it started just like a dude at the beach. Now it's
but dude, I can't even name men's after Classic Physique came out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, Classic Physique pretty much crushed men's physique. I can't even name 5. I can't name 5 men's physique guys. I can't name men's. I don't even look at them. And the only reason I know Bundia is because he was the Olympia guy and he's always in trouble. Other than that, can't even. But Classic Physique has totally, because their Classic Physique has become. I'll always be an open, bodybuilding fan first. But Classic Physique has become a kind of like the picture perfect physique that the majority of people would love to attain.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
That's what, like guys that look like you. That you're how tall are you?
I am officially now 6 foot. I've been fighting 5'11" and 3/4.
Yeah. So you're 6 foot tall. You're 240 pounds. You have this small waist, these broad shoulders. You have a 6-pack, these flaring quads. You have the athlete's physique that most young men want to attain, right? And it's very, very easy to advertise and market.
Yeah.
Whereas men's physique has become, I have no legs. It looks like an Old Navy commercial up there, and everybody and their grandmother thinks they could do it. It's just like, it's like women's bikini. It's like, you go to an NPC show and there's 4,000 bikini girls and 4,000 men's physique guys.
I was just at the Atlantic States Saturday. That's what it is. It's anyone off the street just walking up, signing up for the show and putting on a bathing suit and walking up.
That's it. That's what it is. So, but Classic Physique is very marketable, and I don't know what they're going to do with physique. Maybe maybe they're trying to save it with the weight cap, and I don't really know. But I mean, I'll always be a bodybuilding fan because that's what I grew up loving the freaks. I mean, when I was in high school, it was Dorian Yates was fucking Mr. Olympia, and nobody saw anything like him. And then it was Ronnie. I was like, Jesus Christ, you know. So I was a fan of the freaks. I always wanted to be a freak, but I just never had the size. But I can't take anything away from the classic physique guys. They work hard. They come in chiseled to the bone. But I'm a little biased because I'm always a fan of a guy who looks more like a bodybuilder in men's physique than in classic physique than a classic physique guy.
Okay, so like respect towards them since past. So like George Peterson, for example.
Exactly. I was always a big fan of his because he looked more like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there was the other guy who actually I think he's moving into 212, who came in second a couple of times to Bumstead. I forgot he had these tremendous peaks. Well, I can't remember his name. What's his name? Breon. Yes.
Okay.
I was always a big fan of his because he looks more like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You know, whereas where guys like you are what classic physique is. But and I understand that, but because I'm a fan of bodybuilding, of, the dense, hard, thick muscle, that's what I always kind of like, that guy looks good. But the truth of the matter is they go for guys that look more like you. Like I said, the wide shoulders, the small waist, the flaring quads, the lats, and so on. So, Bumstead kind of guy, and so on and so forth. But anyway, so that's that. I don't know. What do you think of Bumstead?
I met him for the first time in Pittsburgh. So
Oh,
yeah, he's a cool guy. He's just very like I understand the appeal to him. He just comes off like instantly relatable. Like he's got the lisp. He's just got like a very down to earth way about him. Like he's not trying to look up his ass or anything like that. He's just easy to listen to. He's easy to be around. He's easy to see, and he's very like he presents himself in a very comfortable way. Like I saw him, I walked up to him. Like I tried to be really respectful about it, and like he's like, yeah, we just took a picture, and he was talking to somebody else. He's.
Let's see. That proves my point of that. Yeah, that proves my point of what I was saying before when we were talking about, hey, I have to be sociable and be a professional because you want, and look at the following he has and look at the business opportunities he gets.
Yeah.
And every kid in the gym every high school kid knows who Bumstead is.
Yep.
They have no idea who Hadi Chopin is. No clue. But Bumstead, then they know immediately, So he whatever he's doing right. And
I don't think he's doing anything. He's just being himself.
Yeah.
And people love it and they soak it up every moment of it.
Well, if that's the case, then it's easier if you're just being yourself. You know what I mean? Like and I think it's his like I said, his body, his personality is very marketable, and kudos to him, man, because he's got like an energy drink now, and he's got all kinds of things. What do they call it? I forgot what was the bum. Is that what it is?
I think there's like bum energy, but then there's
yes, yeah.
He's gonna open up a gym, or he's talking about it. He's got a lot of stuff in the book. I was just watching his podcast with Flex Lewis, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, he's busy. He's
he's once you establish yourself as your own brand, whatever you want to touch in that industry, you're going to make money with.
Yeah.
So like I interviewed Jay Cutler, and if anybody hasn't seen it, watch it, because it's the first half. It's an hour long, but the first 30 minutes I talk about business with him because he's a tremendous businessman. He's made a ton of money from bodybuilding, but investments. And he actually said the only thing he ever lost money on were things that weren't not bodybuilding or fitness related. So anything he touches for bodybuilding, he makes money because he's Jay Cutler, right?
Yeah.
But he made a lot of money through real estate, but you don't need to be marketable for that, for real estate, right? But he actually was producing bullet casings. He opened a warehouse where he had the equipment to manufacture casings for bullets. And it did not do well, and he cut his losses, and he sold the equipment, and so on and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. And that was it, But anything else, his clothing, supplements, he even showed like a CD that he used to have that sold because of all the music he liked to listen to, Jay Cutler's top 10, whatever, whatever, you know, and Bumpster's doing the same thing. He's you know, and you know, and that's what I'm trying to do. You know, I'm hoping that this YouTube channel will grow and the podcast will grow enough where, you know, oh, I could start a supplement line, I could start a clothing line, and people will buy it because, oh, I'm a big fan of John Livia from the series Silliness Bodybuilding, and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. You know, like look at that stupid shirt Nick Walker made, Ass Man. Do you remember that a couple of years back? And I can't tell you how many people in the gym I saw it with.
Because you know what, it grabs attention. It grabs the eye. It's controversial. It's not taboo, but at the same time, like you don't see people walking around like just wearing that freaking shirt. So it's exciting for freaking young kid in his 20s in the shirt. It's like, oh yeah, Nick Walker did. Like, oh, look at me.
Yeah, I'm actually coming out with a T-shirt that's a little bit taboo. I don't think it's taboo, but it's a little controversial.
It's gonna raise an eyebrow.
Yeah, and I figured, screw it. You know what? I'm doing it. So I put the order in yesterday, actually. So I'm waiting for them to come. What happened was I was walking through the gym, and I saw Pride shirts.
Okay.
You know, for Pride Month.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm walking to the gym, and I'm like, what if I sell a shirt that's the complete opposite of that? Right? Got people that are not LGBTQ, whatever, but are still proud. Okay. So I was like, masculine pride. So I went on the website. I just put masculine pride. I put my logo underneath, and I'm like, let's see how it works. So I'm waiting for the first shirt to come in, and I'm gonna wear it and see if people like it.
I honestly, for like the gym setting, I don't know that it's really actually a bad idea.
I don't think so either. I don't think
they're going to be that controversial. I think that's in that setting actually rather tame, all things considered.
Yeah, I don't think it's, you know, I don't think it's controversial at all. I was just like trying to look at how I could capitalize on it. All right. On my other channel, I interview so many people.
Yeah.
And I interviewed this guy, and we got along. I forgot his name. You could look it up. He was a self-made millionaire, and he has a YouTube channel, but he was very successful before his YouTube channel.
Right.
And he was the one that actually gave me some ideas of what to do, right? And so what he did was he decided that, you know, the plaques in YouTube they give you if you have 100,000, 100,000 you get a silver plaque, 1 million subscribers you get a gold plaque, right?
Yeah, I've seen.
He said that he basically was like, I wonder how many people want counterfeit 100,000 subscriber YouTube plaques. So he put an ad on the website and so on and so forth, and a price and whatnot. He had nothing, and the orders were coming in from all over the world. And he's like, well, gotta get started. And then he started actually fucking building them and shipping them out. He would go to Lowe's and get the exact fucking measurements and make it themselves and ship it out. And I was like, all right, cool, I get it. Okay. So I'm gonna order one t-shirt. All right, got it. And see if people like it. And then I'll order the shirts for everybody. Because if I ordered 500 shirts and nobody likes it, I'm stuck with 500 shirts that nobody likes.
But I mean, you advertise it, right? You sell it to the guys at the gym, and I mean, shit, like that's what it is, right? Like that's the perfect environment for it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think we're gonna. We'll see.
Works out for you.
Yeah, I hope.
A signature, right? Like that's a real big.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding gym.
Yeah, that's where they were selling. That's where they were selling the Pride shirts.
Okay.
And I was walking to the locker room, and I saw that they were hanging up the Pride shirts, and I'm like, shit. I was like, there's got to be an audience for the opposite.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's got to be an audience for the opposite. Right. And I'm like, all right. And then I was thinking, I was throwing words around in my head while I was going to the locker room, getting changed, going to my workout, and I was like, I respect men. I was like, no, that's not good. And then I kept thinking about, I was like, masculinity creates society. No, that's not good. And I'm like, just fucking masculine pride. Like, that's it. Fucking pride shirts sell like nobody's business, like hotcakes, like masculine pride. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, Rob, I really appreciate you coming on, brother. Really, it's always a pleasure having you on, and we'll have you on. So you know what? I gotta let you know when we record Muscle Talk on Wednesday. So I gotta have you on with me and Arns and whoever else comes on Muscle Talk. And if you could make it, that'd be great.
Yeah, man.
But we always keep in touch. So we'll keep in touch. And again, greatly appreciate you coming on, dude. Really.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for reaching out, man. I did when you saw the post, I was like, oh, that would be amazing if you can just do it on a day that worked best for me. And sure enough, we made it work. So
Yeah, sounds good, man. Rob, thank you very much, brother. I'll text you tomorrow.
Cool. All right, John. Sounds good, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Later.
Take care.